And the Rebbe puts an interesting parallel. We'll start with the second half of the parallel, and the first half we'll just present orally because we already went through this many times. Hashem's knowing of the world, of the creation, does not result in the creation of coming into being. And we explained to what extent we are able to understand this, that this is quite perplexing. Hashem's idea yet does not create it in being. And we said that this phenomenon is reflective and reveals the principle that Hashem's idea is Havdalah Lagami, is a totally different, in a separate and a much higher level than to bring the creation in fact. And we already tried, and now we'll attempt another time to point out that this idea, although it is, we say it's the Havdalah, it is a super level of idea that does not affect that which is known. You have to then reflect nonetheless. Again, as I said many times, this reflecting is something which is possible only because we have an neshama, because we have an insight that cannot be verbalized in words. There is such a thing as knowing without being involved in what you know. Now, this knowing is not knowing it vaguely or projecting from inside, from what one already knows, but actually knowing that entity itself. Which is a real knowledge. And yet, this real knowledge does not affect that which is known. It does not make any kind of a connection there. It is real knowledge without the effect of knowledge. And this is what we call in the Maimer, that because the knowledge is B'chinas Havdalah L'gamri. And this is what we'd like to focus on today and to try to understand is a tall order, but just to put it into some kind of perspective. What does it mean, knowledge between its Havdalah and Gamma? So I was thinking, how do we approach this? Try to approach it on a very simple, low level. Breishis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es ha'aretz. We talked about it. So we understand the significance of saying Oretz, as he created the Oretz. Oretz is a factual presence. And the Torah, Rishon Elohim, is intending to tell us what there is, what world they are functioning, and what are the requirements for that functioning. Therefore, Rishon Elohim is Oretz. How is Hashemayim coming to this perspective? The Shemayim do not have any of those experiences we have on the Oretz. Shemayim is it seems some kind of an uninvolved presence. Just thinking to me as I'm speaking, in Halacha there is a Halacha, so an aidus, a witness. Witnesses have a tremendous effect and other power, but witnesses also have to have a very clear requirements. Somebody who is a Kohen, who is a relative to the people involved in the testimony, is a apostle of witness. And other such restrictions. And then there is a in Halacha the question of this. Somebody comes and he knows his story. It's his mamish discussion in Halacha. And he happens to be a witness that is not suitable to this situation, halachically. So that if he is to be a part of the testimony, he may nullify the whole testimony because it is possible. So we ask him a following question: when you were standing there, what were you there for? What was your intent? Was your intent just to observe a curious situation? Or did you intend to bring testimony? If you intended to be part of the testimony or attaching to something, then you pass on the whole thing. On the other hand, you could be there, but you had no direct involvement in what's going on. You're not interested, you're just curious. Something happened, you're curious. Then you're not affecting the testimony.
And you can be a witness.
No, you cannot be a witness. You're a apostle of witness. But you're not passing the other witnesses. In a group of witnesses, if the one apostle of witness, he nullifies all the others.
So why is this guy apostle if he wasn't there with intent to testify?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. If you were not being intent to testimony, then you're not affecting the testimony.
But you yourself can't testify?
No, you can't. You're apostle of witness.
Oh, I see. It's apostle of witness. I see.
Question is that you apostle the others. So I'm saying if you came just to our curiosity, not the then you don't affect the testimony. So similarly over here, you say we have an idea, and it is between Sabdol. The idea is not involved in that which is known. And therefore it doesn't affect the result of this, of what's taking place.
What about the Shemayim?
Okay. So this is this. So this we said basically about the Shemayim was Oretz. So Oretz clearly is involved in what's going on. The question is, where does the Shemayim come? And yet, the Pasuk says clearly that the creation of the world consists of this entire reality, the Shemayim and the Oretz. What is the Shomayim contribution to this observation? The Shomayim is a perspective of things happening in the world from a Shomayim perspective, from a Shomayim level. Not from a worldly level, but from Shomayim level. What is the Shomayim level? Shomayim level is the way it is known by the Creator himself. Now, what is the principal difference between the way it is known or the way it exists in the world and the way it is known by the Creator? And this is what the term Abhinas Havdalah alludes to. In the world, it could be hot and cold. When it is cold, people in the world are uncomfortable. When it is hot, people in the world are uncomfortable for a different reason. But if this phenomenon, these changes, so to speak, in the world, are viewed from a higher perspective, from the Creator's perspective, where he is not affected, he is not part of that which is being created, that which lives as a result of this creation. He has a higher presence. By him, these changes do not have any effect. So he knows of these changes not by experiencing the effect, but knowing them from a higher perspective, knowing about some reality about them. This knowledge, what is the significance of this knowledge? Since he's not affected by it, what is the significance of this knowledge? If the entities that the world that he knows, came to be completely independent of himself, somehow they grew up from someplace, then this knowledge would actually have no significance. It's like knowing somebody, knowing a foreign object. But what the truth is, that everything that exists, that came to be, is created and comes to be and is inspired and empowered by his presence. So although his knowledge is on a higher level and he himself is not affected by it, and he knows it not because he's affected, because he's experiencing it, but he knows it from his higher perch, nonetheless, that those things are present in his mind. Why are they present in his mind? Because he wants them to be present in his mind, not because he's affected by it. because he includes them in his own thinking. This is called idea b'pchinas havdol. But it's idea. This knowledge is a real knowledge, because he's really interested in them, not by personal experience, but because he wants them. On the other hand, the creature, those who are known by this knowledge, are not affected by his knowledge, because he knows them from a level that they're not even conscious of the presence of it. This is why we're going to the next section right away. In 3 lines from the bottom. Likewise. After that, the Nivroim came to be. And again, they came to be. I have to repeat what we said before. Very important, which is to us is alluded to all the time. All existence, the phenomenon of existence per se, is effectuated by Hashem's knowing it. Does not have a means of existing, but for the fact that Hashem knows it. If that's the case, so therefore their existence should reflect how Hashem knows them. How does Hashem know them? Hashem knows them that they are part of Him. They are godly creatures. And therefore, that knowledge should permeate their being, and they should sense that they are godly creatures. And yet, that is not what happens. They sense themselves to be totally materials, and they don't even sense that they are creatures. They sense themselves all materials. This is the phenomenal greatness of this. You would say it's a miracle. It's beyond a miracle. This is what we're trying to define over here. This is the term I'm of Dallas. We'll see in a second. Okay, yeah, 3 lines from the bottom, and we'll just try to go straight. After the Nivroim came to be. The knowing of the Nivroim does not in any which way affect the Bechira, the choices that the Nivroim have. What's the connection? Because the Havas and Nivroim is really reflective of them being known by the Creator. Their being in the world is an element of Him knowing them. This is what makes them be. There is no Mitzias outside of him, outside of his knowledge. Anything that exists means that he is a reflection of what he knows. This knowledge is not machriach, does not affect the choice of that which is contained in that knowledge. Okay, let's go further in the second line. The Hagam she'idea komasi odom u'tilation. That although he knows all human actions, and all his effects, all that he pursues. Koidim also before he did it. And we will skip this next two lines. We go straight to the end of the page, after parentheses. This knowledge does not compel the bechira. This is a real challenging concept. Their existence consists in the fact that he knows them. And yet that knowledge does not affect them, affect their thinking process, their choice. And the Rebbe says, why is that? How can it be? Because this is our next challenge. This knowledge is muvdelas, is distinct, is separate. Be'erech means in comparison. It is on a different level completely that does not relate to that which is known. So the easiest way to put this, have a chance to think about it, is this. By us, we know things only as a result of coming in contact with them, whether it's in touch or sight or any kind of other way. But we know them after the fact that they exist. Therefore, their existence is part of our knowledge. If we know them without knowing their existence, we just have projection. That's not real knowledge. That's like an imaginary knowledge. That's not knowing them. And here is where we come to this breakthrough. Lamailo, there is an idea. And the idea is a real knowledge, knowing of the object, of the entity itself. He knows the entity itself, and yet the idea is muvdelas be'erech. In other words, he knows it without coming in contact with that which he knows. What does that mean? He really knows it. So in what way is it knowing it if he doesn't come in contact with it?
Are we saying he knows it, but it doesn't yet exist?
No, it exists, but it doesn't. But it's not affected by his knowing it. He does not reflect his knowing it. It doesn't affect its choices in life. He knows it as an existence, and yet it has no effect upon its being. Not only does he know it, in fact, but the entity's presence in the world is due to his knowing it. And yet, it's not affected by his knowing. He still has full free choice, so to speak, to act according to him. What kind of knowledge is it? Is it a fictitious knowledge? In other words, I'll know it, but I'll close my eyes. That's not a real bechira.
Idea.
It's not a real bechira to the entity. In other words, you better watch out how you act, because I'm not looking. So you say no. He has a real bechira. He's not affected by the fact that his creation is created by this knowledge. And to this comes this term, The idea is between Havdal or Lagam. It's a real knowledge, but it's a Havdal. We might as well make next step. I just spoke many times. I don't know if I have time. I'm not sure.
You have time.
Huh?
You have time.
I have time. 10 minutes. Wow. That's a lifetime. We already spoke about the principle of worldly knowledge and divine knowledge. Worldly knowledge is a knowledge of something that's present on the worldly level. Present on the world level is verifiable. It's true only because it is tangible on the worldly level. There is no, pardon me, objective truth in the world that in this world there has to be such a thing. If it has to be, it's because the world it participates in the fabric of the world. Notice, as we mention all the time, when the world was first created, it was dark. Was it the world or not? What was it? Then Hashem said, "Let it be oil, let it be light," and there was light. But the world could be without light. Now, what's light is not a compelling element in the definition of world. It could be a world with and without light.
Could be a world without with or without darkness also.
Excuse me?
There could be a world with or without darkness also.
Without?
With or without.
Darkness also.
Also.
Without darkness.
With or without. You said with.
With or without light. I didn't say darkness.
Yeah, I'm asking.
I don't know if you can
Yeah,
imagine that you have to explain to me what you mean. That's a completely different. Okay. So where I started about light, so we might as well pursue that same line of thinking. Since world itself could be without light, where did the idea of light come in? The world is not demanding it. The answer is, it came from the creator's perception. He defined world as having light. It is not a definition of world per se, it's a definition as the creator gives it. This union that the creator perceives the world having light, and yet there could be a world without light. Is an illustration of the creator's level of knowledge that does not affect the entity that he knows. But he knew the world without light, in darkness. It was not a mistaken world. It's a real world. And yet, from his perspective, there's light. As I mention all the time, light, daylight. That's why it's called by maybe daylight is a super presence of light. You cannot duplicate. We have all kinds of different means of bringing light. We cannot duplicate the phenomenon of daylight. Daylight is a divine definition of what the world is. So daylight becomes part of the fabric of the world itself.
So before he said he earlier, there was light, but his knowledge of that light didn't have any effect on the world. The world remained mamish dark. Is that what we're saying?
No, there wasn't a light.
By him there was.
By him there was and there wasn't. Let me explain to you. We need light to see. He sees he sees in the dark and in light absolutely equal. Nothing has to assist him to see.
Yeah.
So by him, the whole phenomenon of light that enables you to see, it doesn't exist even after the creation.
Because I thought you're using this as an example or emotional or whatever to say what is knowing B'Havdalah Gamri.
That's right.
So where's the knowing that he has of light before the light is here?
The knowing that he has of the world.
Mm.
He knows of the world, and the world is dark.
Okay.
Is it a real world or is it not a real world?
If he knows of it, it's a real world.
It's a real world. And yet, in his perception, the world is that let there be light. The world should have light. And even though he knows it as a dark world, it's a real world. Because he knows the world not the way he knows the world, but the way the world is.
I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in that.
All right. Let's step back a bit. We're talking about Hashem's knowledge. And we're saying Hashem's knowledge is a factual knowledge. If he knows it a certain way, this is the way it is. This is the way it has to happen. How was it that it was a dark world, and the Rebbe knew it, and yet it remained dark, and it was a world?
I don't understand that question.
Well, yeah, I don't understand it either. Why is that a question? He knew it. It was dark.
In Hashem's perception of world,
Yeah.
is it dark?
Oh, okay. In his perception, it's not because he
Oh.
sees it. He sees everything.
So how come there was a world and it's dark?
Okay, now you get it. I
So
don't
from
get it.
the worldly perspective, it's dark, but for Hashem, everything is light.
That's right.
So therefore, his light is Havdalah compared to the world.
His knowledge is B'Havdalah.
Because in his knowledge, the world is not dark. As we understand dark.
That's right. To put it simply, yes. In his knowledge, the world is not dark. The Haraya, when he says, let there be light. Where did it come from?
Hmm.
He didn't have to create the luminaries to bring light. Sir.
You're looking at a clock. It's 7:21.
They're letting me to the time?
The let there be light was his revealing the light the way it was.
The way he
light.
knows it, that's
He
right.
knows it.
He said he didn't have to create light. Let there be light. The light that already exists in my perception should come into the world.
And that's a separate step. Then it's going beyond Havdalah. Then it's going into, because now the world on the world level is
Revealing on the world level the way Hashem knows the world. Revealing on the world level the way Hashem knows the world. It is not on the world level, because on the world level you have to create luminaries.
Mm.
That light should make sense.
I see. That's just revealing what was in Hashem's idea.
What does it?
So it was in his idea to begin with, but at that stage, it didn't affect the world. This is a knowledge that
Even
doesn't
though
have
he
effect.
creates the world,
Mm.
his knowledge, and yet that remains Behavdol, because he knows it from a divine perspective, not from a worldly perspective. I really, there's no time. Just want to point out, maybe as a starting point, reflect the phenomenal super miracle of this.
That the world doesn't automatically reflect what's in
Hashem
Hashem's
creates
idea.
the world by his knowledge. In his knowledge, the world is
Right.
light. And yet, it gets created as a dark. Because Hashem wants to create the world on the worldly level rather than on the divine level.
And then he adds light to it.
Then he adds light to it. Then it brings this light into the world.
And the super miracle is he's like rolling it out in stages.
The super miracle is that he created the world. He didn't fake it. He didn't lie it. He didn't shortchange it. He created that real world as he saw it. And yet, there was no light. Because his knowing of the world in that form, and knowing the world, is a knowledge that is on the super level. Therefore, it could be a world that Hashem knows, with and without light. It's the same world. It's not two separate things. It's the same world.
Now it's 7:25.
This is the Havdalah. Okay.